Welcome to the Lyrically Speaking podcast, where we dissect, dig deep, and discover the lyrics to some of the most popular songs ever written. We ask, what are they really telling us? What can we learn or unlearn in some cases? I'm Louise.
And I'm Omar.
And here on the Lyrically Speaking podcast, we share our thoughts on how the broader themes from these songs relate to our real everyday lives. So if you love music, if you enjoy critical thinking and reflecting on life's bigger themes while having a laugh with friends, then this is the place for you. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Lyrically Speaking podcast. Today we have, I'd say it's a classic.
An absolute classic. An absolute classic. I remember this song was number one in the charts for weeks. And now for a song that wasn't, from a mainstream demographic, that was big. It was quite big to have a song
and you know what?
Genre.
Yeah, and
for that long.
I didn't realise that it was released in the 90s. I thought it was a 2000 song.
No,
it was released
this was
I
remember this, primary school days, 90s, yeah.
That's crazy. And it was released around Valentine's Day as well, so they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
From a market perspective.
Exactly.
Today, the song Omar and I are talking about is "Don't Leave Me" by
Don't
Blackstreet,
Leave Me.
Which we're going to dig into it. We're going to learn a bit more about what's behind these lyrics and what do they really mean. A song that might seem loving,
yeah,
because it's released around Valentine's Day, isn't it, Omar?
Yeah, 100%.
But on the flip side, it could be a red flag.
Some flags be flagging if you really break down what they're really saying.
So let's go in. Let's dig into it. So the lyrics are: no baby, no baby, no baby.
Listen, no, and no, triple no. So if you never got the first one, this one is saying no.
And then it does actually go on to say no, no, no. So there is another triple no.
So literally, we've doubled up on the no's. Six no's.
Doubled down. So clearly, there is a feeling of no going on. Okay, not yes. There's a rejection of something. Okay,
it's all no.
Yeah. So if you take your love away from me, I'll go crazy.
I mean, come on now.
That's a lot.
Come on, that's a lot.
That is intense. That is intense.
Yeah, I mean, so you don't want that. Who wants that? Look at the pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. But then he even goes on to say, I'll go insane.
Listen, see, that's where you're really taking it to the next level, because we don't even use that word. I mean, who says insane? If you say someone's insane, that's super duper extreme, isn't it?
It's very extreme. That's like his life will never be normal again. He might have to be sent to an institution. And then obviously the wording is, if you take your love away from me, as though she's taking something away when maybe she actually might just be trying to gain something. So it's like he's not considering her feelings in this.
100%.
So clearly there's a rejection of something. There's, I'm going to go crazy, I'm going to go insane. And then he goes on to say, no, baby. No, baby. No.
Oh, I'm laughing.
No, baby.
No.
No, no, no.
Wow.
No, baby.
Wow. The no's were really... I didn't even realise there were so many no's in this song.
They were strong.
Wow.
There's
absolutely
more. No, baby. No. No, baby.
I'm still saying no. So it's the next line. We got to the next line. And he's still saying nah. Come on now. Come on, Blackstreet. Come on. You're taking it too far now.
This is the next line, okay? I'm not repeating the same line. So there's a bit of mental programming going on.
They should have called this song No. Why did they call this song Don't Leave Me? They should have just called this song No. What?
What a mess. Yep. So next line, no baby, no baby.
No.
Baby.
You're not.
No.
You might as well, let's just skip this and just say no times infinity, because I'm a bit confused here. I'm hearing you're sending me next line, and all I'm hearing is no. This song, no. Blackstreet, you messed up with the title, because the title should have been no.
Yes, it should have been no, or no baby.
Or no baby.
So we're finally now away from the nose, and we get into some proper communication.
Right.
Okay. You got your problems, baby. I got mine. Let's just spend it all by putting it together.
Oh, yeah. Boy.
Red flag. Red flag.
The amount of times you said no there, your problems are extreme, much more extreme than mine. I don't think we should spend it all and put it together. So already I'm out of here.
Yeah, I mean, why multiply the problems?
100%.
We're trying to decrease them, not increase them. When you say you love me, it don't mean a thing. If you cared, you'd be there like you used to be. Yeah. Again, it's a lot, right?
It's a lot. This poor lady.
Yeah. There's a bit of manipulation going on.
100%. If you cared, you'd be there. And literally, when we first heard this song, didn't we think it was a love song? Though
I thought it was a love song.
Look how it's giving us the wrong idea of love. We thought this was romantic. Mm-hmm.
I'm searching for the words to make you realize that I really, really want you to stay.
Oh gosh, so we never gathered it already. We're still searching for more words. We never knew.
Oh dear. More words beyond no.
Beyond no.
Nice. Tears of frustration I hold inside. But if you walk away, you'll make this grown man cry.
Wow, we don't want that.
Don't leave. And it goes on into the chorus.
Wow.
Don't leave me, girl, tonight.
Wow.
So there's a lot there, right? Like you said, Omar, we thought this was a love song. We thought it was full of green flags. But as we're going through it, there's a few things to unpack here and a few questions. So what we're seeing here is a man that on the surface is begging this woman to stay. Is that a red flag? Is it a problem? What do we think of that?
Do you know what? I think, yes, this is definitely a flag. Flags be flagging. I don't think that any one individual should be so dependent on another individual that if that person decides to leave because they have agency and free will to do so, that you are now going to fall apart at the seams. Look, the reality is when you get into a relationship, two people come together to make that happen, but both parties have their choices to make, and both parties have the choice whether they want to commit or whether they don't. And if it's not working for one person, we have to have the maturity to accept it. We might not like it. Breakups are not easy. Sometimes we think things are going really well. But for me, when I hear this scenario, the fact that the woman clearly is so adamant in going, and you clearly are so desperate for her to stay, that says that you guys have been in two completely different relationships. So that's a massive flag. Because normally when a relationship ends, we can both see it's not quite working. There's been arguments.
It's not a shock.
It's not a shock. It's like, it's sad because you always want to hold on to it, but it's like, it wasn't working. But for you to be like, if you leave, I'm going to go insane. If you leave, it's going to drive me crazy. If you... Like, you really thought this thing was wonderful. You clearly, this thing was like making it for you. And for this lady, it was a completely different story. So it shows such a misalignment. One person was living in reality and one person was clearly living in fantasy. So when that sort of impact when a relationship breaks down definitely is a flag. And then it makes you wonder what were the sorts of conversations that they were having leading up to this, because for you to be so desperate, and that's sort of, like I say, everyone has agency and free will. So for you to be like, don't leave, I'm going to go insane, you're trying to take away that person's free will and, self-agency. So that is very controlling and also very manipulative. So definitely a flag, big red flag for me.
I agree, Omar. You make a good point about they're on different pages, because he clearly is desperate for this thing to work and she is out the door. And it might seem like it's lovely with him begging her. And in a way, he's taking away her agency to make that decision by borderline forcing her to stay and not go. And it makes me think, was it a situation where she had given him warnings and said, this is going to end, I don't want it to happen, and then he said, okay, I'll fix up, right? And we see that dynamic a lot. We do see that on both sides, that people will only decide to improve their behavior and fix up when they're going to lose something. And there's a threat that's pending. But in a healthy dynamic, really, you should be willing to adapt, treat the other person how they're asking you to treat them when there's no threat to losing the relationship.
Exactly.
What do you think it means when someone is only willing to love you how you're asking to be loved, or adapt or do the thing you're asking them to do when you're saying, I'm leaving, I'm out the door? What do you think's behind that?
So I think what's behind that is that you have an individual that, and this is the thing, because when it's such a, it is really like manipulative, and it's almost like duplicitous, because if somebody genuinely has someone else's interests at heart, so we know, like when we talk about relationships, it's about giving and serving the other person, right, in a relationship. If someone genuinely has your interests at heart, they're going to always be thinking about what things can they do better, how can they improve. The minute you share something that, isn't liked or is impacting someone in a negative way, you're going to immediately be like, what, I never wanted to impact you negatively, I'm going to change. For the person to have to throw down an ultimatum, what does that really say about it? It says that you're selfish. You're selfish. And also, it also says that you think that you are the business. You see, so we hear this kind of vulnerable, don't leave me, but ultimately, you thought you were the business. You thought that you could carry on with your carry on and not change anything. You genuinely thought you were all right, and she was the problem. And if you could just show her how much you loved her, she would get in line without really thinking and addressing what the issues were within yourself that she was challenged by. So to your question, what's behind it? I think what's behind it is, this word that we throw out, but I do think there's a bit of narcissism there in terms of, I'm all that, I'm fine, you just have to get on my line, I don't need to change anything. And selfishness, a bit of selfishness where you've not been willing to adjust all through the relationship. So then at the end now you throw down this big ultimatum. When she throws down the big ultimatum, now you're desperate and scrabbling when you could have been, conscious of what she was saying all the while. So my thoughts.
Really good points. It could also be pride, because he doesn't want to be dumped.
True.
Or she, because it can be either gender.
Yes.
He or she doesn't want to be dumped. They're not willing to do what it takes to keep you, but they just don't want to be dumped.
They don't want to be
dumped. So there's
dumped.
a bit of maybe a little bit of narcissistic attitude there. And a bit of pride and ego as well.
That's so true. You just don't want to be dumped. Have you been in that situation? I've been in those situations. I've been in a particular one I can remember where you're like, this is not popping off, I'm not feeling this, and it's like, no. Really? Then down the line they turn around and dump you. They just don't want to be the dumped. They don't want to be the dumpee. They want to be the dumper.
I've had that experience. 100%. That is what it is. That is what it is at the end of the day. And when you go back, typically maybe they'll modify what they need to modify for a little bit.
Literally.
They go back to the old patterns.
100%.
And like you said, you end up getting dumped a few months later.
Literally.
And they're off with someone else.
Literally.
So should people walk away from relationships? Like once you've walked away, should you just, that's it, leave?
You know, Lou, I feel like for this one, different strokes, different folks, right? For me, I don't really agree with being friends with exes. I don't get the point of it. I don't see why. I mean, it would be different if, okay, so it depends, because let's say you were very, very good friends and you tried a thing and it didn't work. Do you understand what I mean? And it didn't end up being very good. You might go back to being friends then if you were already friends. Like if the basis of the relationship was friendship, you might go back to being friends. So kind of get that. But for most people, the basis of being together is not friendship. It really isn't. It's like you got together for the purpose of the relationship. So if that doesn't work, most times it's just going to fade away. And the way I feel is if you're such good friends anyway, then, you know, I think, well, the relationship would naturally work. If you have a really good friendship and good communication and you decide to get into a relationship, I feel like that relationship most times should go the distance. So it's a tricky one. But for me personally, I think when it ends, just walk away. I think just
agree.
Walk away.
Don't go back.
Don't look back. Don't double back. Just keep it moving.
Yeah, because it's very easy to romanticize a past relationship and think that, oh, it wasn't that bad, especially if you're not in the best place yourself.
Exactly.
And I think this is why it's good to maybe keep a record of why the relationship ended. Maybe write down the issues or the reasons that you decided to leave, and tell your friends. Tell your family.
Remember. So they say, girl.
Yep. Tell someone or record yourself even. Tell yourself, remember, don't go back to that. Yeah. It wasn't working. This is why.
Yeah.
Because, I agree. I think that once you've walked away from something, a relationship, especially if you were in your right mind when you walked away and you know that there were logical reasons as to why you did it, there's no point going back. Even if he or she is begging you to come back, you must remember why you left in the first place.
Agree. Yeah, that's my thing. Just keep it moving. And it's true, especially if you've come out of it and they're now with someone else. And that's another theme we're going to probably touch on down the line. But they're moved on to someone else and you are still single. You know, in fact, we have touched on this. We've touched on this when we did the Adele episode.
Yes.
When you start romanticizing, oh, never mind, you know.
Yes,
for me, I could find someone like you. You know, you start putting this person on a pedestal when ultimately it probably was never all that in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. And I remember we said in that episode that she will find someone, maybe not like him, but someone else.
Exactly.
And she probably doesn't want someone like him because they broke up and it wasn't the best situation anyway.
Exactly.
So I think sometimes in life, though, we can be a bit scared to let things end. We don't want to walk away from things. Me personally, I don't have an issue with that. I'm actually trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to get better at sticking things out and seeing things through. But I know that generally it can be tricky. What do you think? Do you have a similar thing? Or?
I'm similar. Listen, I bring down the axe and I move it. I just keep it moving. I don't look back. I don't look left. I don't look right. The axe comes down. Once my axe is down, the thing is for me is that I can give a long rope though. I can give a long rope. Like I can be loyal, you know, I'll stay the course, even with people like friendships that I like. I can stay the course. But once my axe is down, that's it. And I think, you know, the older I get, I don't give much time for the axe. You see, before I think actually I say I can be loyal. In my younger days, I would allow things to drag on and I keep things going on that were not, you know, good for me. Now, once I see it's not good for me, I just bring down the axe very quickly, and then I don't look back. I keep it moving. I don't. So, and I probably could be better. I probably could be better at maybe giving more of the benefit of the doubt. But I don't know. I just feel like time. I just don't know.
It's a balance, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you want to be patient and gracious, but then you also want to be quick at spotting when. This isn't going to go in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think as you get older, maybe that is why my axe comes down quicker, because I know the things I just don't like. I don't like it. And there's nothing that is going to make me like it. If this thing keeps going, like, I'm not going to like it. I'm not going to change my mind. And also, especially when it's things that are compromising my values, I'm not going to change my values and my principles. They are grounded. I have a firm foundation in my principles. So it's not going to change. So if anything comes that compromises that, I bring down the axe and I keep it going, because I know now it's not like back in the day when you go, oh, well, perhaps it's not that bad. And perhaps it's experience teaches you, and experience has taught me that when you see it is that bad. And like you say, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse over time. It's not going to get better. And the other fact is that you teach people how to treat you. So if something happens once and you let that slide, and you're still giving your all, and you're still doing all the things that they would want and all of that, then they're just going to keep going with negative behaviors, because it's like, oh, well, I got away with it the first time and you don't mind, so I'll just keep doing it.
Very, very true. And you know what this conversation is reminding me of? That lady Risa Tisa, who the F did I marry, in her viral TikTok. I don't think you've seen it.
I've not seen it. I've just been hearing now. I've not. I need to get on and watch it.
Basically, she should have brought the axe down quicker, and she didn't.
Girl.
And she met someone during lockdown who seemed to be the perfect guy. He had everything she wanted in a man, but there were some signs early on to indicate he was a liar.
Yeah.
And basically, she found out that he's not who he said he was. Everything he said was a lie. His identity, everything. He was actually wanted on a warrant for arrest.
Wow.
And he was an ex-felon. Just was not. He was unemployed and like homeless. So he completely fabricated the whole identity.
But did she take him into her yard? Did she move this man in?
She did, yeah, she did. Because basically during lockdown, they just met before, what's it called? Quarantine,
yes, yeah.
And they were getting on, sparks were flying, chemistry was amazing, they were hitting it off. Oh. But then everyone had to go into quarantine, and she said, well, I don't want to quarantine separately from you. Let's live together. So yeah, they moved in together, I think after 3 weeks or something together. So this is probably a situation where, the song is called Don't Leave Me. She should have left. She should have walked away, brought the axe down. And it's okay to walk away and not go back. Like we were saying, it's a balance, isn't it? We need to be people who are, of course, loyal and dedicated and committed to working through things, even when there's challenges. But it's the relationships that are worthy of that work that we commit to. The ones where we're seeing those red flags so soon, we've just got to get better at spotting that.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. I think that Rita, what did you say her name was? Rita Tisa?
Risa Tisa.
I think this is the thing. We always want to believe that what we're seeing is not true. I don't know why we do this. I don't know, especially I think as women who are getting older as well. I don't know what her age was.
Yeah, that was a factor, actually.
Yeah, this is what I mean. That. I could actually already say, was she a woman that was over 30, in her 30s or getting into 35, thinking about her biological clock, thinking about, in fact, she's not settled down. In our communities, there's always that pressure. So we get to a certain point where we start to say, you know what? That's not that bad, really. Is it that bad, really? Just so we can be in a relationship. But ultimately, it is. If it's something you don't like, you're never going to like it. And for me, lies is the biggest thing. Like, I look at the small things. Like, if you lie over, like, a check or, like, where you were or for what reason you did or didn't do something, like, for me, that's a big deal. Because if you can lie about a small thing, then you're only going to lie about big things. So for me, those things you have to, like, pull people up on and just say, look, tell me what's really good. And it says a lot about people's character.
And she let him off a lot of lies.
Yeah.
He was already starting to lie before she married him. So she sort of let it go.
And you shouldn't. I think when it comes to lies like that, because why would you lie over something? Because sometimes people lie over really small things, and you think, why would you lie over something so dumb? Like, some things you don't have to, like, I get it, like, if, like, the felony, okay, like, if he's a felon, yes, okay, you might not want to tell me that you're a felon when you first meet me, because I might look at you sideways. That's true. So things like that are going to be challenging or hard for people to take. I can be like, okay, I can see why you might not want to share that up front. You know, you might not want to share maybe the job you do up front if it's something that people know. If you're like a CIA agent or something, you know, you might not want to share those things up front. So I get lies like that, like, or let me not say lies, but I get omitting information like that early. I can empathize with it. I still don't think you should do it, but I can empathize with why you might omit the information. But if it's like your age, like, oh, you told me that you're 35 when really you're 40, it's like, I'm not going to really be bothered too much about that. Well, to be fair, no, age is again another one, because if you're like 30 years older, that might make a difference.
When I tell you he lied about everything from his mum dying to his dad's death.
Why would you lie about stuff like that? That's what I mean.
To where he worked. He said he was a VP in some condiment company, but he actually at that time was doing like ad hoc work for Amazon, delivering parcels or something.
Can you imagine?
And he would lie about where he was going every day. Everything was a complete fabrication.
But this is my thing. So when she found out about these lies, did she confront? Because I think for me, that's the thing. Did she confront the lies? And what response did she get when she confronted?
He would continue to lie.
I mean,
she did give him some opportunities to be honest, but he's probably the type that would say, no baby, if
this is what I mean.
This is the type, isn't it, that we're talking about?
The type. And also these no baby types, you know, they'll be so, what would have got her would have been how nice he was, the OTT stuff. He's probably the type that was good, doing lovely gifts and lovely gestures, and, you know, really.
Let me tell you the thing that happened that I think kind of cinched it. So it was their first date. They were meeting they were meant to meet at the Cheesecake Factory. And on her way there, she's driving there to meet him. On her way there, her tire burst. So she's stranded and she's like calling him saying, oh, you know, there's issues with my tire. I'm going to have to cancel the date. He says, oh, send me your location of where you are. Send me your PIN. So she sends it to him and he comes down. He changes her tire for her and pays for a new one. This is their first date. So he's already positioned himself as her knight in shining armor, her savior, you know, so already psychologically, her brain's already shifted away from the prefrontal cortex. Away from the less logical side of the brain.
That's the point. And that's what a lot of you know, to be honest, I think that is a pattern. That is a pattern of behavior you can spot quite early. I think the early love bombing, going out of your way, like, I'm not being funny, like, this is the thing with us as women. If a guy says, if I was going on a first date with a lady that I don't know and her tire broke down, I would just call the breakdown service for her, and that would be the maximum, you know, amount I would help. We look at that funny, but the reality is that's actually logical, because you don't know this woman from Adam. She could be lying. She could not even have a car break. Like, you just don't know. The car could have been broke down from time, and she's just trying to get you to pay for it. So when guys, you know, say these things and they're being very logical about it, we look at it like, And when the guy says, oh, I would drive my car down there 10 miles. And
usually they're the ones to watch out for.
This is what I'm saying. Usually those are the ones to watch out for, but those are the ones that we like. Oh, he's really going out of his way. But why would you need to do so much? I think it's better that you are just someone that is consistent in character over time, you know? And that's what we need to look for, consistency of character over time, as opposed to these big, you know, things. I would personally, in my experience, if I just meet someone and they're just really wanting to do the most, like even just as a friend, oh, I'll come and do it for you. Oh, I'll go there for you. That's what puts me right off. That puts me right off.
Some people are just nice, though. Some people are just kind.
Some people are just kind, but it puts me off. until I see that maybe it's consistent over time. But listen, Louise, you know, some people are just kind, but I'm telling you, I don't know, because I've known people who can really be that way. You think they're so kind and so altruistic for years, until such a time as they get the thing they want. And all of a sudden now, it's like a different persona. That nice, kind person that was doing everything going on, all of a sudden now you don't see them. They're checking for you because they've got themselves settled in whatever. So you have to watch out, because people who have this type of personality, they can go for a long time. Just, you know, acting like they're kind, acting like they're until. So it says, because the thing's called Who Did I Marry? So clearly, once they were in the marriage.
Who the F did I marry?
Yeah, so once they were in the marriage, clearly, guy was like, all right then, well, I'm in it now.
He said they only had 2 weeks of peace after they got married. 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, he was acting up. They got married in January. I think by July, it was over. Something like that.
This is what I'm saying. And people, you don't realise, I feel like we need to not underestimate the lengths that people will go to when they're desperate. If you really, really want a man, because you are a certain age and you ain't got a man, or if you really, really are, like, if this guy was homeless, no money, you don't know the lengths people will go to if they think there's an opportunity for me to be situated, and you don't know what's driving
it's
people.
It's a shame, isn't it?
Exactly. So even with females, guys, you know, you don't know if a female really wants to be in a relationship. Listen, you don't know the lengths they will go to just to secure you. So I really feel that we need to not be getting carried away with some of these big gestures, and we just need to be looking for just consistency over time.
I do think this one is very hard to spot, though, because you know, basically, sorry, your sound reminded me of this other TikTok video that's going around about women sounds that women make when they're on a female panel. It was exactly that sound.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'll send it to you. So yeah, I do think this is a slightly more complex, because some people are just very kind and caring and concerned about others and have high empathy, and they show that. And I don't think we should become so jaded to where we think that means it's dishonesty. But I think the key is what you were talking about in relation to consistency in character. Because if that is how they are, then I think there are certain things we can kind of spot and watch out for to see if they're just an authentic, kind and giving person, or if they actually are trying to use it as a means to get something from you or achieve something. I do think that men who are not the most love bomby and not the most big on gestures aren't necessarily, basically to your point, I don't think they're necessarily not a good sort of not good material or a good option. I think as long as they're not mean or rude or unkind, I think those are the things we want to be watching out for. But there's all sorts of reasons to why they might not be coming with the gestures and the love bombing straight away. And to your point, because it can be a red flag, I don't think it should be a prerequisite that they show up with flowers and chocolates and take you out every single weekend and every single time and spend loads of money on you, because that could be covering quite a lot.
100%.
Should they be lazy and do nothing? No. But as long as they're, like I said, as long as they're not rude, unkind, disrespectful, I don't think it should matter as much.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's where I see it. It is challenging, because some people are genuinely nice, but then I think, back to your point about consistency, they should be that way to everybody. So I don't want to see that you're only that way to me. But let's say even your own family and your own, you're not like that. You know, you're not 1,000%. Buying your sister all those gifts, and you're not seeing genuinely kind. I expect you to, whatever you do for me, I expect you to be doing for everybody else.
Absolutely.
And if I see that it's only for me, that is a flag for me. That's a flag, because that says that there's actually another motive to this. This is not consistent character. So I think that's one thing to look for. But also, we've talked about this before with the Adele. Risa Tisa, if we go back to that, did she meet his people? I mean, I guess he told everyone had passed, so maybe that was why she didn't really ask to meet.
No, she, you know, as far as she was aware, he had some aunts, uncles, and siblings, and he never met her family. She never met his, and part of it was because of COVID and lockdown and stuff like that. So she says that the reason he was able to get away with it was because of COVID. Yeah. There was a lot of stuff he was able to hide.
COVID did help a lot of con artists because people could really hide because you couldn't connect. So it was a big excuse. Well, I can't show you that because of quarantine. Oh, I can't show you this. Right. So I do think a lot of people probably fell into relationships or came out of, at the end of COVID, came out of certain situations because COVID was really hiding a lot. So, yeah.
Wonderful points there, Omzi. There's actually some lines in the song that piqued my interest a bit. And the line is, tears of frustration. Actually, let me start a bit earlier. I'm searching for the words to make you realize that I really, really want you to stay. Tears of frustration I hold inside, but if you walk away, you'll make this grown man cry. And what stood out to me about this is, well, why is he holding these tears of frustration inside? I mean, if you're that emotional to where you're saying you're going to go crazy, you're going to go insane, you're begging, I'd want to see some tears accompanied with this.
Listen.
I'd be concerned if there's this level of intense emotion, but no tears.
So this is what I mean. It's all a ruse. It's all
like it's a trick.
It's a clever ruse.
It is that we definitely can see there's manipulation here. But the topic it made me think of was just men and vulnerability showing emotion, because there is an element to this where perhaps he's not been able to express himself properly, and we see with the amount of no's in this that he's not really articulating it in the best way, right? So could there be an element of that in this song? And how do we sort of understand that as women and men? Because it's not just men that can struggle to articulate themselves. You know, I'm a huge proponent of emotional intelligence. I've done training courses in it, and I seek to use it in my coaching practice. But there's a lot in there about having self-awareness, communication of how you feel, and being able to see emotion in others as well. I'm getting the sense from this song that she's probably trying to run away from him, and he's not quite picking up on this. And he's pulling her back, but he's also not quite able to articulate his feelings or really show his feelings. So I guess whether you're a man or a woman, how do you think we can navigate and deal with this sort of emotional intelligence in relationships, and how can it negatively impact the situation?
I think it's a tricky one, especially culturally. There are some cultures where communicating in a particular way has just typically and traditionally not been seen as, you know, the right thing for men to do in terms of being strong. You know, men are supposed to be very kind of stoic, especially in Black culture. You know, you need to be a strong Black man. So you don't cry, you don't really, you know, express too much emotion. You're not to be given over to any emotion. You're not to really over communicate how you feel. So I think those have been some typical things. But I honestly feel like with, you know, our generation and definitely the younger generation, people are definitely moving away from that. I think mental health for men is obviously a big, you know, there's a lot of movements now around men's mental health, you know, mental health for especially young Black men as well. So I think in terms of if you find that you're in a relationship and you're struggling, I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with getting help. I think getting, you know, external help, therapy, or even just like an outside mediator that you trust to just come and help you to articulate. You know, you have a sit down and you get someone to help you to frame things. Maybe you just are not used to framing things in a particular way, and it's like that for everybody. When you feel something and you don't know how to express it, it becomes frustrating, and that can then come out as anger. You know, it comes out as many other things when actually it could be fear. You know, things can come out as like you're being arrogant and cocky when maybe, you know, you're actually insecure. Yeah. So having someone help you to frame what it is you're really feeling, I think is key. And that can be through reading, or even just like YouTube. There's lots of stuff on YouTube about self-awareness and, you know, emotional intelligence, as you talk about, Lou. But I think being able to really frame our feelings and give more language is one thing that can help us. So you're not just sad, maybe you're disappointed, maybe you're, you know, you feel disillusioned, you know, there's other words that we can use, and people can help, and there are, you know, resources that can help you to express that. But I do think that helps then to build better relationships, because then both parties understand how their actions are making the other person feel. So that's what I'd say about that. But it is tough, I know, in, you know, in the Black community, traditionally, for men to really express that. You know, people get, and I guess maybe it's not just the Black community. I mean, I can't speak to other communities, but I know, like, what's this guy? Is it Andrew Tate? I always get his first
Oh
name.
dear.
Yeah, you know, he talks a lot about, you know, there's this whole kind of red pill and, you know, being a simp and all this stuff. So there is this rise of, like, you know, I'm a guy and what I say goes. But I think healthier approach is to be open. It makes you strong because you're actually recognizing and doing that self-reflection, and you're not afraid to confront whatever the feeling is that's really there. So some thoughts.
100%. And, you know, in EQ, it talks about this. You hit a really key point about naming it.
Yeah.
I think when we develop that language to name what we're feeling, as you said, I think it helps to bridge connection. And I think not doing it is a huge blocker to connection and other people understanding who we are. And there's actually a phrase that's used in sort of the EQ world, and it's name it to tame it, because there's actually physiological changes that happen when we explicitly state what the emotion is. The emotion moves to a different part of our brain, and we're able to use logic more to deal with it. And then I guess because we know what it is, we're now able to lessen the impact of it and manage it a bit better. So obviously the issue is being able to name it in the first place. And this is why sitting with ourselves to understand what it is we're really feeling and uncovering it. You know, you spoke about getting someone to help, and really digging deep into what that emotion is important. And I think men should be allowed to do that, and they should be 100%. Given room to cultivate that ability as well. And contrary to what Andrew Tate might say, I think it helps us. I mean, as we've just shared, it helps us make better decisions because we're able to tame what the emotion is and think through the emotion rather than just react to it. So I think that men should be able to express these things. And I was struck by the lyric that says, "Tears of frustration I hold inside." There's a bit of emotional suppression going on here, that I think women are free to often cry and express. But
in all sorts of crazy ways.
Even when they shouldn't, even when we shouldn't be, and it doesn't make sense to be. We will, like you said, be crying in all sorts of crazy ways. I mean, I'm not saying that men would want to do that, but I'm saying if they need to, they should feel like they can. And as I was reading the lyrics of the song, I thought, I wonder if this is really what the problem is in this whole song. I wonder if the root of the issue is he's not been able to express how he feels properly. She's had enough. She's walking away. Now he's trying to show some emotion, and it's coming out a bit manipulative and a bit of a mess.
And to be on the side of, you know, our Blackstreet buddies, you know, also another thing we need to think about is, again, and this is why, you know, when you get into relationships, and we talked about this with Adele, but I think taking a logical approach, especially when you get to a certain age, I think taking a very logical approach, because sometimes there's things in people's background culturally why they're not able to express themselves, or why maybe you're sharing something you want to change and they don't understand it. Well, I mean, I met someone recently who was sharing with me about their, you know, relationship with their husband, and how, you know, they do all of the work in the home, they do all of the looking after the children, and the husband's view is, well, I don't have to get involved with that because my mum did it. My mum did it, you know, they saw their mother do everything. And so in their mind, it's like, well, you should just get on with it. So that's a cultural thing that you have to work through and have to explain. And sometimes that might even need to open a conversation with this guy, maybe, and his mother as to, well, why did you just get on with it? Were you happy when you would just get on with it? Because sometimes we see them getting on with it, but it doesn't mean they were necessarily happy in it. So there's so much, I think, that really should be unpacked logically. But going back to your point about when we name it, we bring it to the place of logic. I think for men, that should be very helpful. And that should be very encouraging for any men who are going through a thing of not being able to express it, because knowing that if you express it, it's going to help you make decisions. I know men are from Mars, well, women are from Mars, women are from Venus, men are from Mars, think differently. And, you know, from what I hear, men are far more logical. Men, you know, they like to take action, they like to make decisions, and I know there's variations of that, but ultimately that's kind of what you hear. So for, you know, people who do fall, and like I say, men and women who do fall into the category of I'm a doer, I like to take action, I don't like to sit around in feelings, being able to name it is going to help you fall more into your comfort zone, which is to take action, make decisions, etc. So I think that's definitely a key point that you made there, and it's a good takeaway, I think.
On that note, what are your key takeaways?
My key takeaways are Blackstreet, you know, this song was too intense. I don't think this is romantic, and I don't think you should release these types of songs around Valentine's, because it gave all us young'uns the wrong impression of what love is, right? So I think that was wrong. I think Blackstreet did us dirty, and there's probably a lot of women running around thinking that means a guy loves them because he's saying no. So that's a takeaway from me, that this song was not what I thought it was at all. But on a more, you know, serious note, I think this song has brought up, you know, key themes around self-understanding, self-awareness, and self-expression. And I think one key takeaway, and I did say this just there, is, you know, being clear and being able to name our feelings is very important. We don't want to end up having to beg as in we don't need to actually get to that point. Before we get to that point, we can sit with ourselves, do some self-reflection, do the work, you know, get someone to help, find a therapist or someone, you know, an emotional coach that can help you work through. Name our feelings so that we don't end up feeling like we have to do desperate things. We take back the control and we can then make logical decisions. And I think logic, this key takeaway is that logic is key for healthy relationships. It's not just all about feelings. So that's a major takeaway from me.
Come through. I think you said it all perfectly, Omar. I will just say, remember why you walked away. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Lyrically Speaking podcast. We're so grateful for all of you, our listeners. We don't want this episode to be the end of us connecting. So tell us what your key takeaways were. They're probably different to ours, so we'd love to hear them. You can tweet us with your takeaways or leave them as a comment on our social media post or our YouTube video for this episode. We are at Lyrically Speaking Podcast across all platforms, including Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, except X, where you can find us as at Lyrically Pod. You can find Louise on Twitter and Instagram as at Carlo Coaching, that's Carlo with a K, and me, Omar, as at Omar.fam.